Hey everybody, it's Christopher here. I'm just dropping in to let you know that while Pieces of a Woman did come out this past weekend on Netflix for all you fine listeners, for us, me and Stephen, we actually watched it and recorded the episode last year during the 2020 Toronto International Film Festival. That is, of course, before the news of FKA Twigs' lawsuit against Shia LaBeouf. So this recording has no mention of that and doesn't have the knowledge or the context for that news coming out. So we're not going to mention it, and just wanted to let you know that it's not a oversight. It's just we recorded this in the past. So here's the episode in its entirety as it was recorded then, and hope you enjoy. Bye.
Our screens may be all different sizes this year, but our films will have the same sized impact. They'll shake you, move you, and refuse to leave you. Mark our words. Groundbreaking stories are very much to be continued.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning podcast. This is our 2020 Toronto International Film Festival review of Pieces of a Woman. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week in the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a streaming platform near you, except for this week, where we are talking about all the things that we caught at the 2020 Toronto International Film Festival. This is our penultimate episode here from this festival. Pieces of a Woman. Stephen, what did you know about this before we got started?
Not the big ticket item. Nothing about the plot. I knew the cast. That was basically it. I knew the cast of this movie, and I saw Vanessa Kirby, Shia LaBeouf, Ellen Burstyn, Benny Safdie. I'm like, all right, I'm definitely getting a ticket to this movie, whatever it is, just to see what it is. And then I heard when the movie premiered, people talking about a long take early in the movie. So I knew that there was a long take at some point in this film, and that's about it. Oh, I also knew Vanessa Kirby was getting some buzz out of Venice for her performance, but that was like way after I bought the ticket.
Yeah.
What about you? Did you read the synopsis for any of the, I realized I didn't read any synopses before I watched these movies, even though I bookmarked the page and put them in my calendar so Joanna would be able to read the synopsis and know if she wanted to join me. But I was like, I'm already in it. Why would I ruin anything? Yeah,
that's the same thing as I didn't read anything. The first one where there was potential for Jamie to join me, I started reading the synopsis and I'm like, oh, she's not going to be interested in this movie. It was for another round. Also, the way that synopsis
I think every teacher should watch Another Round.
But the weird thing about the Another Round synopsis is it's not like the basic plot is these guys decide they want to stay partially drunk all day to see if it makes them better teachers. The synopsis is like, so there's this one guy and he doesn't drink so much, but then he goes to dinner with his friends, and then the friends are like, hey, you should drink. And he's like, I don't want to drink. But then he begrudgingly decides he's going to. It was the weirdest synopsis I've ever read.
Like a 4-year-old telling a story.
Yeah. I basically bailed out of it partway through and just like, oh, okay, I got the information I need out of it. I don't need to continue on this. Luckily, the movie was great.
Yeah.
Synopsis bad, movie great. But yeah, I didn't know anything about this other than seeing the image and be like, Vanessa Kirby, Shia LaBeouf, I'm in. And then I think you had mentioned Benny Safdie. I think you had maybe sent me a screenshot of just the names portion of the description, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm in. But I still hadn't even consumed its existence outside. I didn't even hear the buzz out of Venice or anything like that. So yeah, we're going to find out what we thought of this film, though.
I wanted to stay at home. She sounds really good. Hi, baby. I wanted the baby to decide when she wanted to come.
My daughter came into this world. For the time that she did.
And I can't bring her back.
There are miles between us.
Martha, is that you? How are you?
Time between us.
60 to 70% of these cases, we rarely find a satisfactory explanation.
There is something between us.
There's certain things medically we just don't have answers for.
To dream of you.
Very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Why can't I wake without you always?
How is Martha?
Martha's fine. She's always fine.
I'm gone.
Have you decided to go to the trial?
It's the right thing to do, honey.
Because you say it is.
She has to pay for her incompetence. We need some justice here.
No, you need.
Why are you trying to disappear my kid?
Because we don't have a kid.
You have to face this.
I am facing this. I am facing it. I am facing this. Who cares about what they think? This is about me. This is about my life. This is me.
Between us.
I'm just going to read the description from IMDb. A grieving woman embarks on an emotional journey after. I'll leave that part off. I don't know how much of this is
We have to at least talk about the basic premise. We have to be able to talk about the first 30 minutes of this movie, I feel like.
Yeah, true. So it's embarks on an emotional journey after the loss of her baby. So that is the basic plot of what we're watching here. It's you could call it you could rename this movie Baby Story. But Stephen Miller, why don't you let us know what you thought of this film?
This was a movie that started at like an easy 4 stars for me. Just it opens with this, like, not open, but very near the beginning of the movie. There's this long take of labor into childbirth. And I had not read the synopsis, so I did not know the outcome of the childbirth. Like, I had absolutely no idea. And that scene is so fucking intense. And Vanessa Kirby is like so good in it. I was completely enthralled. And then the movie spent every other minute after that convincing me to dock it stars. Like, I feel like this movie starts incredibly strong and it goes downhill so quick. And in the end, I felt really torn. Like, I think the Vanessa Kirby is great in this movie. Shia LaBeouf is doing just his Shia LaBeouf thing. Like, I feel like they don't even write characters like this. They're just like, hey, you do you. Remember how you're like aggressive, but in a kind of like weird, you might go on a rant about spirituality way. Like, just be that guy for a while. And everyone else is just kind of like nothing to me in this movie. Like, they don't really get a chance to play a clear role. And I feel like it gets very emotionally manipulative and the character dynamics are super muddied. And I don't know, it went from being, I thought, fantastic in the first 20 or 30 minutes to being like aggravating how quickly they were torpedoing these characters. I just feel like there are so many scenes in this movie where people, they have arguments that I wouldn't believe they would have, or unpleasant things happen just to kind of heap misery on the characters. And I feel so conflicted because I was so into the opening of this movie. Like I think that long take on its own is one of the best things I saw at TIFF, probably. And the rest of it would probably be the worst thing I saw at TIFF, at least in terms of my emotional reaction to it. And I just found it, I don't know, complicated, and it didn't know what tone it wanted to strike. Like, it was kind of filmed in a very showy way, even when the moments weren't justifying the showiness. Like, close-ups on the characters' faces and like long shots trying to set tone and ambiance that I didn't think were really deserved. And I don't know, I just didn't believe the story. I didn't believe the way the characters behave, and I found it frustrating in the end. But I kept remembering the beginning and being like, this was such a good movie. Yeah, I'm very confused about this movie. I want to know how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, you said that the first 30 minutes of this film made you think 4 stars. The first 30 minutes of this film made me think 5 stars. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. This is fucking amazing. I was like ugly crying. Like I knew exactly where it was going, and it was upsetting that it was taking 30 minutes to get there. Like I was like, okay, I know what we're going to do here. And I was like, oh, you're just going to fucking in real time draw this out for me. This is fucking harrowing. This is like just the acting was amazing. The emotions of it felt raw and like true. And I was just like, geez, this is going to be my favorite film of the festival. Like, sorry, Nomadland. This is going to be like the greatest thing ever. And then, well, I mean, first of all, like, not only is it a 30-minute scene at the end of it, but then after the scene's over, you get the title for the film, Pieces of a Woman. It's like they wait that fucking long. Just it's like your yeah, it's amazing. I know there's other films that I can't think of off the top of my head right now that get pretty far in before they show you like the title of the film. But I just
even
thought
One
like,
Night in Miami did.
They did also. Okay. But I feel like just sitting with what you just sat and then being like, this is like just black screen, white text, Pieces of a Woman. This is what you're in for. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this film just wrecked me in 30 minutes with one of the best scenes I've ever seen. And literally from the second the next title card comes up, which is some arbitrary number of weeks later, and we catch up with Vanessa Kirby walking into her office, I just really didn't understand what this film was even trying to. I mean, I get what it was trying to do. Is it was trying to be like, look at this relationship devolve because of this event that just took place. But I'll just say it. I thought this film was stupid. Like it's amazing to me how little there is once we get through that opening. Like that opening was so amazing, and then when it goes on from there, like there's a court trial that's supposedly going to take place, and the character who should be driving the court trial kind of is absent from it and doesn't really care. And we see news things on the TV, and family members of this character are talking about this trial, but we have no context for it or what's happening. And there's a lawyer, or a prosecutor, I should say, who is trying to do something. And like, love that actress. She's great. Yeah. But the problem is she's clearly not a fucking lawyer. And nobody who wrote this script knows anything about law. Because it would be like, Stephen, if I was trying to, like, I don't know, sue you for taking my podcasting microphone, it'd be like, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I had a microphone and now I don't. Do you think that I shouldn't have a microphone anymore? I rest my case. And it was like every single scene is just stupid, and it doesn't make sense. Like there was never a point in this movie where I was like, yeah, they should get that woman. Like I was literally never.
Yeah, of course. It's clearly a frivolous suit. And I think like it could be interesting if it was like this person tried, but they were unqualified or made a bad judgment call, blah, blah, blah. But like the movie doesn't even want to live in that procedural realm long enough to make you think about the case. It's all this like brooding relationship in disarray, which would be okay, but then it decides it's a courtroom movie all of a sudden. And that combo is just so weird.
But like I wasn't the biggest fan of Flight when we reviewed that. But in that film, there are groups of people trying to prove whether what Denzel did with the plane was the appropriate thing for him to do, right? Like it was like, hey, what? Like, hey, I know you saved everybody, but also you did a barrel roll with an airliner. We need to investigate whether that was the appropriate thing to do. In Sully, right? In Sully is like, hey, I know you saved everybody, but you also landed a plane in the fucking Hudson. We got to figure out if that was appropriate for you to do. And like in all these scenarios, when somebody is being getting in trouble legally for potential reckless endangerment or wrongful death or anything like that, there is an investigation that takes place where there is evidence presented and expert witnesses who will talk about the situation. From what I can tell, there was never anything. This was just a court case that was going to happen. They showed up the day of and they just like gave some evidence. And I couldn't believe it. And also, when you're done with a witness, first of all, I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched a lot of law television. I'm pretty sure
I've seen a couple seasons of Suits in my day.
I'm pretty sure when you're done with a witness, you say, no further questions, Your Honor. You don't say, I rest my case.
Right.
It just didn't fucking make any sense. Oh, I couldn't believe it. And also like the way they try to like complicate the relationships and stuff like that. It was immediately apparent that this film was going to be extremely melodramatic, which is weird because the beginning was so authentic and then everything after that was just complete trash. And I kind of like never really cared what was going on. And in weird scenes where like, you know, Vanessa Kirby is like trying to forget that the child ever existed and Shia LaBeouf is like, no, I need to remember this child. Like I never felt what I was supposed to because all I felt was the lack of, I don't know, the lack of something. Like you can't have a beginning that is that great if the rest of your film is just going to fall flat. And that's kind of just what I felt like it did.
Yeah, no, I felt that too. And the thing is, I think I've probably seen a movie about this before, about how loss hurts a relationship. Like two people, you know, when people lose a child, it often does end in them splitting up because it's just really difficult to go through that. And eventually they just remind each other of the loss, and so they can't be together. And I was ready for this movie to take me there, right? Like Vanessa Kirby and Shia LaBeouf would start out being very close and comforting each other, and then slowly they would grow to resent each other. But the movie really, like, from the moment that title card drops, it's just like, oh, they hate each other now. And it feels like this movie was just so interested in the big melodramatic moments. It didn't care about bringing us along with the characters. It was just like, look, now they are hateful. Now they're angry at each other. They can't look at each other anymore. Let's look at other terrible things too. And I haven't seen any other movies by the director, Kornél Mundruczó. He's like I'm sure I can't pronounce Hungarian names, but he's a Hungarian dude who did like White God and a few other things. And I have no idea what his style is, but it feels like just very showy. And frankly, this was another one of those things, not to get all like identity politicsy or whatever, but like I didn't love that a man was directing this movie when like this is the subject matter. It's mining for melodrama, but it was written by his partner Katja Weber, so like it might come from a personal place. Like I don't want to discount that this could be like a real look at grief that two people really went through, you know. So the reality of this situation, I'm sure, is terrible, very painful. The movie though just felt so manipulative and over the top, and nowhere was this more clear to me than a Thanksgiving scene where Ellen Burstyn, at some point in the middle of them arguing about the court case, goes like, "When I was in the Holocaust."
That was.
I honest to God was like,
did? I lifted my head.
Like, are you kidding me, movie? Like, now you're bringing in the Holocaust? Like, this is just not how a real person would behave in this situation. And it just really, it annoyed me how much it was willing to just like mine the worst possible things that could happen to people for melodrama. It just seemed very cheap and lazy and not deserving of the amazing opening 30 minutes and the amazing, like, I think Vanessa Kirby is good all throughout this movie. I just think her character makes no sense and she has nothing to react to. You know, it's all just like she is a kind of numb shell who is trying to get over this thing and the world around her is not letting her get over it. But yeah, I honestly think like this movie would be way better if it were short, that just were that 30 minutes and then maybe had some kind of grace note at the end to feel a little cathartic, and then just ended and was like, this is a 40-minute movie. We've talked about grief, the end, you know?
Yeah. And I think too, one of the things that bugs me in general about the character of the mother, who is very much, you know, Shia LaBeouf is not, or you're too good for Shia LaBeouf, and he doesn't deserve you. And I really wish this relationship wasn't a thing. The thing I'm most annoyed about her is like, not only was that Holocaust story already overly dramatic, but on top of that, all we know about her up until this point is that she's rich. And then we get that story and we find out that the reason she's rich is because she could have died and she had to save herself by lifting her head. So the rest of her life, she always lifted her head and got rich. But like, I'm pretty sure they never say what she ever did or how she has any of that money or anything like that. So it's not like she's an amazing businesswoman and Vanessa Kirby was gonna like take over the family company and instead decided she wanted to have a baby with a bridge builder. Like that, I don't know. There's no connection there to like kind of explain where that difference comes from. And I kind of like, I can only take so much melodramaticness, but also when you're using that melodrama to like push forward a narrative that you haven't filled out yet, it kind of just makes me that much more mad at what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely felt that. You mentioned the bridge builder, and I did kind of like there's a little motif that they use about a bridge being built over the Charles. And I thought that was, in a better movie, I would have liked that a lot. Like, it's a good way to signify, you know, time and something coming together versus people coming apart. Here, it really just made me wish for a better movie. I also don't like that with the time jumps. It always felt like arbitrary amounts of time. Like, it's like 30 minutes, 3-ish weeks later. Then it's like 4 weeks later, and then it's like 8 months later, and then it's like it never felt like, it wasn't like, this film would have honestly just worked better if it was like the attempted baby birth and then it's like fall. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then it's like spring and like 500 days of bummer.
Yeah. It would just made more sense if they did something with these random time jumps instead of just being like, see how this relationship is fucked now. So yeah, I just didn't, man, it literally was such a bummer.
Yeah. I was going to say too, I was really happy to see Jimmy Fails in this because it's the first time I've seen him in anything since Last Black Man in San Francisco, but I don't even remember what his character did now. Like, I just remember that he was in the movie and I was like, hey, that's Jimmy.
His character, uses her computer in her office to watch training videos, and then
yeah, that's right.
and then drinks a little bit later on. Like,
yep, you're right. I remember.
Yeah. Oh man, I was so sad by the end of it. Like, I was emotionally wrecked by the beginning of this film, and then I was just sad and depressed at how bad the film turned out by the end of it.
Yep. Agreed.
Any last thoughts, Stephen?
No, I don't know. Put this cast in a better movie. I still like the ensemble in principle.
Yeah, for sure.
I do like. I believe Shia LaBeouf is like a sober dude that's like a little much, but tries to be pleasant. And I feel like him making conversation over Thanksgiving dinner, trying to talk about like rock bands and the Strokes, like, yeah, sure, yep, the Black Keys, right? Yeah, amazing. Like, I like the kind of like crazy energy that he brings to these characters. Yeah. I did not enjoy the there's one intimate scene in this movie that made me very uncomfortable, and I know it's supposed to make me uncomfortable, but I really not a fan.
Yeah. But yeah, what do you say, Steve, when we get to our verdicts for this film then?
Sure.
All right, if you were going to give this a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I'm giving pass with a caveat only because a movie with this good and opening 30 minutes needs to have a caveat attached to it. Caveat is obvious. The beginning of this movie is fantastic, and the lead actress is great. The rest of the movie is manipulative and aggravating, and I did not like it at all. I think this was my least favorite movie of the festival. So there you go. Possibly the best scene of the festival and my least favorite movie. So that is a very frustrating film.
Well, it wasn't my least favorite film of the festival. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that later.
Yep.
But I'm also going to give this a pass with a caveat. The caveat for me is that once this is available on some free streaming platform, you should grab like a pint of ice cream and a blanket and just like chow down for 30 minutes while you watch this like emotionally wrecking opening 30 minutes. And as soon as you see the title of the film, you can just click away and then be done, because this is the
equivalent of your viral How I Met Your Mother tweet.
Pretty much. So yeah, that is going to do it for our review of Pieces of a Woman. Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
People can find me at twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at Twitter.com/spoilerwarning, Facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or Instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will likely be the jingle to the 2019 Toronto International Film Festival, so hopefully you're enjoying that. And yeah, we're going to take off. We have one last film to review, and it's going to be a doozy.
Yep.
Bye.
This is Canadian content, and it's time we take credit for it. Starting now.
Oh, Canada!